This is WOMMLP operating out of Burlington, Vermont. 105.9 The Radiator is the Rocket Shop. Good evening. I'm your host, Tom Proctor, and with me tonight is Britt Moore in person. Hello, Britt.
Hi.
And we've got John Keane calling in from... Actually, I'm not sure. John, where are you calling in from? Arizona. This is our first ever call-in, I think, for this show. So it's always good to have a Big Heavy World exclusive or
cool.
a debut or
Yeah.
a first. We do like kicking it off with a song. So what would you like to play for us first?
I'm thinking that we should probably start with Bittersweet.
Alrighty. Bob, could you cue that one up for us? Britt Moore kicking it off there with Bittersweet. So, first off, John, welcome to the show via the phone. Britt, welcome back to the show.
Yeah.
How did you two meet? Do you guys consider yourself a band, or are you a solo artist with audio engineer kind of taking a more of a greater role
John,
than usual?
What do you think, John?
Well, no, it's definitely a solo. She's definitely a solo act. But Britt and I had been working together. We were in a band together for a couple of years, and then she moved, away from Arizona, and had all these songs that she wanted to do, and I offered to help her out a bit with the music and the production. So
he says a bit, yeah. Yeah, I mean, we still have our house in Vermont. We moved here in 2007, and I started working at Linden State College in the music department pretty much right away, like right when I got here. And then we moved to Arizona, actually, to be by my mom, who's getting older. And then the COVID thing came, and, I was glad I was there for that. But I met John through, just the way musicians meet, lots of times on Craigslist or just, through friends or whatever. And we were in a band together out there. So that's how we met, and we played around Arizona. And he's just really talented. And, yeah, like he said, I had all these songs. Those are old songs that I wrote, even like some of them 10 years old. And I had rough versions of them, on my own guitar. And so I'd send them to him, and he'd make it good.
Juice them up. So, as you said, that you and John played together in Arizona. How long is this kind of collaboration, this style of collaboration, this remote collaboration been going for?
I don't know. Like
the end of last year, like November, I think.
Yeah, like it's really brand new.
Looking at some of the emails from yesterday, it was around Thanksgiving.
Oh wow! So this has been happening fairly recently.
Yeah.
But you've got a number of songs together. What have you been doing in that span of about 4 or 5 months? How much work have you got through?
Well, the songs are just a lot of like diary entries from just journaling. Mm-hmm. And, I'd start kind of like writing a little story or writing a little journal. They're all about real people, They sound like love songs, but, there's one in there that's actually about my dad, So I just kind of started putting them to, a chord progression first, and then I'd find like a little lick or a little melody on keyboard that I liked. And then I just kept sort of trying to produce them myself, but that's really hard if anyone knows about trying to wear many hats. I mean, John works on his own music all the time too. And it's hard to like sing something, but then also be engineering it and trying to look at it from, the vocals would just sound really robotic when I would try to engineer it at the same time. So what was great was I kind of said, hey, John, I got this giant thick book of all these songs, all these lyrics, and I don't know what to do with them. And he said, well, why don't you send me some? And I sent him rough recordings that I did in Logic and in Pro Tools. And it just really, he's been a saint with that. Because then he would take the whole progression and even the licks and kind of like elaborate on them, send me the tracks back, and then I could just be in my studio space and I could just sing everything, which just made it so that I could actually express myself a little bit better vocally.
Yeah, so you kind of already had all these audio recordings previously, and then about November, you kind of then tagged John in, and then since then, he's kind of been working on these pieces and sending them back to you.
Yeah, and every time he sends me something, I'm always kind of blown away. Like, oh, that's not what I thought it would sound like. But, like, for instance, the Bittersweet one that we just listened to, I had done it on piano originally, and I tried to do a very cascading sort of descending notes and then going back up like a little waterfall, like if you're falling for someone, And he really did that with the guitars. He made it sound like it was just kind of going up and down the scale, exactly kind of how I pictured it.
Yeah. So. And John, how much do you feel kind of is your influence in these songs? Because from what Britt says, it sounds like you brought a ton to the table and really kind of pushed it in one direction or another with your kind of ability as an engineer. But do you kind of share that same kind of ideology?
Well, it's kind of hard to do that, and try to make it. You hear the idea that like she'll send me an idea and I'll listen to it. And Bittersweet, for instance, it took a very long time because the guitar player that was on it played, obviously had a completely different style than what I play. So I kind of had to wrap my head around what he was doing. And at the same time, I, kind of listening through it and all of the things that I didn't like about the arrangement or, the technique or whatever, and, trying to pull out all the good stuff and make it work. And, it took a long time because I went through, especially on Bittersweet, because I had originally started a guitar part, an acoustic part, and then I thought I got this great idea, and I thought, well, why don't I capo up and I'll play it in a different voicing and have it sound, gigantic, but still sound like one big guitar. And then I went through and I had to relearn all the parts in the different voicing, and then I played them differently, and I liked it better. So then I had to go back on the other part and relearn, and I was going back and forth till I finally got it streamlined to what it really needed to be to express, that whole like an entire voicing rather than it sounding like two different parts.
Yeah, of course. And is this the first sort of project you've been this involved with in terms of audio engineering, or do you do this for other groups as well?
No, this is all kind of new, and I'm unfortunately kind of doing it part time. So it's not something that I'm well versed in. So I've learned a lot working with Britt, and a lot of it's trial and error, trial by fire, and learning what works, and kind of learning new things because with digital, although anymore a lot of stuff sounds really, really good compared to what you were able to do with synthetic instruments and so forth. But you still have to learn like new and creative ways to make it sound warm or make it sound real. Considering that I'm essentially working with I still can have analog guitar sounds or not, or, and all the drumming, of course, is digital, and the keyboards and strings and so forth are all digital. So it's all, trying to make it sound as real and warm as possible.
Yeah, I can imagine it's kind of difficult, and that kind of brings me back to what you said, Britt, in terms of trying to audio engineer it yourself, and that is, in fact, or at least it was at one point, your trade. You were an audio engineer yourself.
Yeah.
Where obviously there's that difficulty even when you're the person singing yourself, and you can redo the vocals over and over again and make it sound warm. But where does that difficulty come in as someone who is, or at least at some point was a professional at doing this? Why was it so difficult for you to kind of engineer your own work?
Well, everybody's always like very critical of what they sound like themselves. And so, I think John's a good liar as far as like telling me that I have something that sounds good because, I don't want it to sound, there's like no auto-tune on any of these songs. I kind of wish that I could do that, but I also want it to sound natural. But the biggest thing for me was I hear every single flat and sharp note that I sing, even by semitones. I mean, I can just hear that it's ever so slightly off, and it drives me batty, and it just makes me want to continue to keep doing the tracks over and over and over again. Or I'll get stuck in an EQ vortex where I'm just over EQing constantly, and then I know that that's actually a bad idea to do that. So I'm getting better at not engineering my stuff, because one of the reasons why I'm so grateful to John is that these songs are so old because I just produced them to death, and then I would just give up, and so I think, if anybody can learn anything from, not that other people haven't been through that experience, but you have to just get to a place where you just need people to hear your music. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, it's going to sit in that folder forever. And so you kind of just have to say, okay, it's as good, it's good enough. I really want someone to listen to it. So
So it's also got that kind of there's two kind of elements to this, which are fairly vulnerable actually, because one is you trying to engineer your own music, and then finally going, you know what, I think someone else needs to actually have a listen to that, and that's a fairly vulnerable thing for a start. But the second part is that these songs are actually quite personal, as you said before. A lot of them are just ripped straight from your page of the diary. What was your decision making in terms of that kind of choice, in terms of where you're drawing your creativity from? Why was it your diary that was a thing that you kind of went to in terms of starting to songwrite?
Well, it sounds kind of cliche, but it's that old thing, write what you know thing. I know that sounds silly, but I've written songs about stuff that doesn't have any meaning to me at all, fun songs or silly songs, or trying to purposefully write a song about a topic that I don't really have any knowledge of or am not really invested in. And it's cute, it rhymes, and but then you go and try and sing it and it sounds a little bit like you're doing a commercial for like a car company or something, or a jingle, so I thought, well, maybe I'll just try and actually sing something that I wrote down that I felt sad about or angry about or frustrated about. So there's only 4 songs that we're going to hear, and one of the ones that we're working on now is actually about my struggle with anxiety. So that one's very dark and kind of emo, for lack of a better word, but that one we're just kind of sort of getting into now. And I know that's going to be difficult to sing when I get into it, because you could separate yourself and sing it really accurately, but then it sounds kind of artificial. You kind of have to let yourself cry a little bit or get sort of angsty in the vocal. So
was that very noticeable for you when you had that switch where you went from singing about went from singing about abstract topics to very personal topics? When you first listened to those new tracks, you're like, oh wait, no, now I get it, now I see.
Yeah, and I still kind of make that mistake. One of the other tunes that I actually sent John several tracks today that I'm hoping he'll find time to comp them together, but when I first sent him, I sent him one take quickly, like, here, it's done, it's great, I sent it. And he's like, yeah, it's okay, but, so I redid it again today, and I thought, I need to quit trying to sing it so perfectly. So, I just try to really go to the place of, like, this is about a person who died, and I picture them in my mind, and I got a little bit choked up in a couple of the takes, so I ended up kind of tossing those ones out. But then it makes that emotion there, so it's difficult to sing about your own personal thoughts out of a diary, but then again, it also makes it a little bit easier in a way.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot more real.
Yeah.
Well, I'd actually love to listen to another track. Is that the one you're going to be playing next?
No, this is actually, I'm thinking we'll play The Skipping Stone. This is actually my attempt at sort of doing, like, initially I was trying to do something like a Pat Benatar thing. But then John, of course, made it really, really cool. But all these still have like a little bit of tweaks we want to do. Okay. Like there's kind of a little bit of stuff in here I still want to change, but it's a pretty cool track. So it's actually just about somebody kind of being used and thrown away, and used again and thrown away. So
yeah. Well, I would love to hear it. So if Bob can cue that one up.
can't help but wonder why I wait down by the river like a skipping stone. Over and over it's goodbye. I won't cry or ask you why. Find a way to make you stay or let you see me this way. Like a river that runs through town, I can never pin you down. Oh, never pin you down. Throw me, skin me, watch me spin. I wait at the bottom till you pick me up again. Skipping Stone.
Skipping Stone there by Britt Moore. I certainly didn't expect the guitar solo at the end. That came out of nowhere.
John's awesome, yeah.
So one thing I noticed when you put your bio up on the Big Heavy World website, there was a YouTube link for one of your songs. You put your lyrics on the video itself, which is, often you do see this on YouTube. I was just wondering, is it very intentional for you to make sure people know your lyrics, and when they're listening to your music that they kind of really understand them and they take that in?
Oh, so I think you're referring to the link to a song called Sonder.
Yeah, I think that rings a bell, yeah.
Yeah, so that's an old song again. That's actually a song from when the last time I was here. Mm-hmm. So different people, but that song particularly, because there's a book called what is it? It's like the Encyclopedia of Obscure Thoughts, or the Dictionary of Obscure Thoughts, something like that. And it's a really cool book that has words in there, made up words from the author that define things that we don't have words for. So one of the words in the book was the word sonder, which is supposedly this idea of that it's the realization when you're walking down the street and you see someone, you look in their eyes for a second and you suddenly realize that they have an entire life too. They have an entire backstory, family, tragedy, joy, all of these other things. So it's the realization that, maybe you don't need to be so self-centered. Like there's other people going through just as much as you are. So we don't really have word to define that. So sonder, I figured no one's really going to know that word unless I read this book. So that video, I did want the lyrics up there just because of that obscure definition. But no, not particularly. I don't really think I'm super needy about people understanding what I'm saying, I mean, how many times do you hear a song and for years you think that's what they sang, it meant that to you, and then you find out what the real lyrics, and you're like, oh, well, that's not what I thought,
I certainly think there's two types of people, like people who very much get into the lyricism and know the lyrics, and then there's people like me that I always get the lyrics wrong if I can remember them at all. I could listen to a song 50,000 times and still get those lyrics wrong. It just doesn't sink in for me. So I definitely.
So just that one song, yes, but it probably wouldn't be something I would do as a habit, doing a lyric video.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you two are planning to get an album out in sometime in 2022. So tell me a little bit, John, how's that process been for you so far?
It can be difficult just in, just communication, because it's mostly in emails, and, she'll send tracks, and then I'll send tracks, and then, she'll comment. But, in a text, you don't really get the inflections of what people really mean by what they're saying. So it's like, well, did she really like what I did? Or I don't really, understand really where she wants me to go with this musical idea or whatever. But I think for the most part, it's come together pretty well. And I did actually, I should mention this, I did actually enlist the help of my friend Mark Pilkerton from Illinois. So it's kind of a cross the nation collaboration on this, because he's doing all the bass work.
Yes, I'm glad you remembered, just because the bass on that is so good. I love that it just kind of jumps all over the place, and that's Mark doing that. So it's just a really cool bass line.
Do you feel weird, because you started this project kind of in COVID, the fact that we were so restricted for so long, do you see more people in the music industry kind of going this route and creating albums or collaborating with each other across the state, across the country, across the world? Is that becoming more of a trend? I know that you've been in the music business a very long time, so I thought you'd probably be a good person to ask about that.
Yeah, and I'm sure John's doing that. I know you're working on some stuff with other people too, right, John? More Mark stuff.
Yeah, I've been trying to work this way for a while, because I have musical friends in a bunch of different states. So, trying to get collaborations with other people. And I think this is actually done more and more of late in this fashion.
I agree. And I kind of got thrown into learning how to do this online kind of thing, like you said, because of COVID. The weird thing about that is when that started, I was working in a print shop doing like blueprints and graphic design and stuff like that, because I do a little bit of that stuff too. And got COVID, lost my job. So then I thought, well, what could I do online at home? So I ended up actually getting a job as a voice teacher, teaching singing to really little kids from like the ages of 5 up to about 13 were the oldest ones. And I had 30 students. And it was really difficult because some of these kids were in different countries. Most of them were in the US, but when you're trying to get kids to do music together and everybody on the same downbeat with completely different internet access, it was like that was impossible. But I did that for like a year and a half of just trying to learn how to use Zoom and just different music apps and how do you send files back and forth, what's the quickest way, and setting up my studio at home to do that. And then I thought, well, that's cool. So how can I make this, something that I can use for my own music? So
I kind of prepped the ground for the work that you're doing with John. And have you kind of figured out a few of those kinks in terms of like that communication part? Is there ways that you've kind of got around it, maybe like leaving voice notes or having those a weekly Zoom meeting or something?
Well, just last week, John texted me something like, what did you say? I don't know what you're saying to me because there's no inflection. I don't know exactly what you said, but basically he was like, we have to have a phone call, So the communication thing, yeah, I might send him like a thumbs up and he'll be like, well, what does that actually mean? Does it mean you liked it? Or does it mean, So the communication part is definitely difficult doing the digital music thing.
Yeah.
The video calling is really great for that kind of thing, although Dawn and I haven't really done that. The problem is where I was in Arizona, really bad signal, Wi-Fi. Now I'm out in the Northeast Kingdom, back home again in like way in the middle of nowhere, so I really don't have any internet access. So I don't really have any ability to do the video chatting.
Oh, got you. Well, I'd love to hear another song. So what's the next one?
So the next one is The Rules of Love. And this was written really quickly. Actually, when I got back to Vermont last August, I just sat in my RV and I'm like, I just feel like I need to write something. And just started strumming the guitar. I think it was just like C major, and I just kind of like voiced it there as an open C major. And then I told John, maybe I should capo this and sing it somewhere else. And he says, no, because then you won't be able to do the little walking up and down thing, And I was like, oh yeah, that's right. You still need the same voicing. So it was just a quick idea. I thought it wasn't going to be good. And then he comes in and makes it like this. I picture it as the credits to 80s rom-com. That's what I think. It's
I'll
like a
keep
romantic
16
comedy.
16 candles in my head as
Very
it plays.
much that way, yeah.
Well, let's give it a play.
Never meant to tell you lies, only meant to tell the truth. The problem is I realize it now. Oh, what I put us through. Get away when things go wrong and you might come out the other side. Call me out if you can be that brave. Oh, take it all in stride. And yes, it's you that I've been making so blue. You should have known it all along. Never play along when you don't know the rules. When you don't know the rules. Love's a game that no one wins. It hurts to throw the towel in. We say we'll never play again, but we both know we're fools.
Labels of Love by Britt Moore there. So Britt, as you said, we've seen you before. You came in about, what, 4 or 5 years ago now?
2017.
2017. God knows how many years ago that is. Quick math.
5
years.
think, yeah.
5 years. So now you're kind of going on this solo journey, or kind of solo-ish, with John kind of contributing as well. What are the differences that you notice and appreciate between playing and performing solo and then versus with that band?
Well, I will have to say I feel much more confident singing with a band, and the solo thing is really scary. And I do play solo. I actually host with a friend. I host the open mic at the Lyndonville VFW. The first Thursday of every month, if anybody wants to come. But I played Parker Pie when I got back. And then actually I was booked to play the Red Barn Brewery, but got the flu or something that week. But I still really like just kind of being the front person in a band.
Yeah.
I'm not a great guitar player. I mean, I can hold my own, but I'm a singer. So I guess I appreciate the fact that I'm getting braver doing it by myself. But it's really hard to sing from like your whole soul, from your toes, when you're also playing an instrument. I still don't understand how people can do that, because the way that I sing is I tend to move around a lot and jump around a lot. I'm a little bit, I have a hard time sitting still anyway, just as a person. So I really kind of like to be sort of like at the audience and in their face. And you can't do that when you're, playing a guitar or sitting behind a piano.
Yeah. Is there anything that you've kind of drawn from it that you're like, actually, this is actually one element that I really enjoy?
As a solo?
Yeah, as a solo artist.
Not yet. I'm still like, I get a lot of anxiety about trying to do that by myself. Maybe it's a crutch. Maybe it's a bad thing. I mean, playing in the band with John, we were called Level 10. And we did a couple of originals, but it was primarily covers. I know some people knock cover bands, but if you haven't been in one and want to, it's a really good place to like get your chops, Yeah. But I think I kind of use the band a lot as a crutch. They're like a little safety net.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just haven't found anything yet to appreciate as far as playing by myself, but I fake it really, really well.
Well, that's good. As long as you can fake it, you're absolutely fine.
Yeah.
Is there plans to maybe get a band together once this album comes out to really fill that out on a stage and to give you the confidence you need to really perform these songs as they should be heard?
Well, luckily, I'm going to fly to Arizona and see John. I'm going to be there next month. And I just asked him, hey, John, you want to do one of these songs live? He was like, yeah, sure. Right, John? We're going to do that, right?
Yeah, you just need to let me know, which one you want to do.
Yeah.
And then we need to spring it on everybody else.
Yeah, and get them to like quickly learn it. I'm actually just started rehearsing with a band out of Bradford. Mm-hmm. They're called Five Below. And it's a great group of guys, and we're practicing like every Sunday, cover band again. And usually when I start with a cover band, I'll kind of like, you got to build that trust first. Mm-hmm. You got to know, kind of how you work together and everything. And then you might be like, hey, want to maybe do an original? Some people, that scares them, and I get that. But in a way, I really don't think it's something to be afraid of, because if it's a cover, no one's heard that song before. They're not going to know if you mess up. You can just be like, that's the way it goes.
Right.
But a lot of people, I think, just don't want to butcher someone's original music, so
Right.
nobody could butcher my music. I'd be all over any
Yeah,
idea.
I don't know
so.
about that, but I do feel like it's probably a little,
It's intimidating to cover
kind of
bands.
stand
So
up
I don't
to the
know if
books,
I'll be
yeah.
able to put anything together right now to
Yeah.
play these. Maybe when I know these guys better in
Yeah.
Bradford, we've only been rehearsing for maybe like 3 months.
Okay. Well, my fingers are crossed that maybe someday you just kind of slip it in and they take to it. They might really love it.
I mean, I've played these just me and my guitar. I played because I have a bunch of other older songs too, even ones from when I was here last time that I can play solo, and people like them.
Yeah.
But they just don't have the. I like all the stuff.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, it's like having like having an army behind
I
you.
like bass. I like the stuff.
Yeah.
So.
Of course. Well, we got about time for about one more song.
Mm-hmm.
So what are you playing us out with?
So this last one is called "Rhythm of the Road." It's a really old song that I wrote on my way to Rochester, New York, to see family. There are so many iterations of this song. It's been done acoustically. I've played it live many times, and then I gave it to John, and I said, "Hey, just think of something like, what did I say? Not Oak Ridge Boys."
No, Allman Brothers.
Allman Brothers. I said, think of that, and then see what you come up with. So, Rhythm of the Road.
All right, let's hear it.
Riding in the backseat, drying off the rain, playing something I recall but I can't name, and it feels right. Can we
Britt Moore playing us out there with Rhythm of the Road. Britt, John, thank you so much for coming in.
It was very fun. Thanks for having us.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, John, for calling in. This was a new experience to me as well, and it seemed to work out pretty well.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Well, you can join us next week. We've got Adriana Chabot coming in. But for now, this has been WOMLP, operating out of Burlington, Vermont, 105.9 The Radiator. It's been The Rocket Shop, and I've been your host, Tom Proctor. Good night.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. That was way fun.